In today's episode, I talked to Sue Rahmani. Sue Rahmani has had an incredible career in luxury retail and is now sitting as the retail training manager for Celine. Not only has she had an amazing career in luxury retail, she's now written a book. So please join me in welcoming Sue Rahmani for her amazing story. Sue, thank you. Welcome. As I mentioned as you walked in the room, I have been following you on LinkedIn for a really long time and always been absolutely fascinated and engaged, I guess, with your posts, with your personality. Everything really shines through, actually, and I'd never met you before. And by you walking through the door, I didn't actually know how to, I guess, greet you, because I felt like I've known you for such a long time, even when we had a brief conversation on the phone. So I'm really excited to hear your story today, especially now because you've written a phenomenal chapter in a book that's due to be released, I believe, quite soon. Yes. So we're going to talk about that as well. But I'd really love if we could start right from the beginning. I read in your chapter that, of course, you were born in Iran and you were absolutely fascinated by the Western culture quite young. So I want to know where that came from and how you sort of went down the path, I guess, of the creative world, which, from what I understand, was very unconventional.
Yes, I grew up in Iran till the age of 21. So I also went to 1 year of university there. Iran was very westernized beforehand. So I, as a child, saw a glimpse of that and saw my mom, aunt, and other women, how it was before and how it changed. So it was not like something that we were not seen before. But then suddenly we had this very fanatic Islamic government, as well as the Iran-Iraq war, which didn't leave a lot of space for female growth or generally for women outside their homes to have any space. And the connection with the West was because we've seen the westernized life. So it was something that our parents were seeking, but also we were living it inside our doors rather than outside. So we would hire, we would rent VHS videos of the Western movies. We would buy cassettes from Top of the Pops. We would put posters of Madonna, Michael Jackson in our rooms, and we wanted to dress underneath our school uniform, which was had to cover your head, face was out, but then you had this very ugly navy tunic with trousers underneath it. So underneath we would wear like slogan T-shirts. We would put lots of, I think the influence still remained, like the 70s kind of Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, and put all of this stuff.
My favorite era, actually.
And that's how we would feel that we are connected with the world, with the fantasy world, which was not so fantasized because it was happening outside, not so far from us, but inside our country was forbidden. And you heard about the forbidden fruit, whatever that you're not.
But you also experienced it once.
Very little. I was 7, but I saw it in my parents, and other people saw it in their families. And people were talking about it all the time. There were videos of it, of pre-revolution, pre-war. And then we wanted to see more. So you will find access to it. And we didn't have the opportunity like today has with social media. There was no Facebook. There was not even mobile phones. So it was all black market magazines and cutouts and cassettes. CDs were like luxury. And VHSs. So that's how we did. And the way the art aspect or the creativity side grew, whenever you restrict it in any environment, there is creativity. So when you are forbidden something, you want to do it more, right? So you push the boundaries. And as a young person, 13, 14, 15, until you're 18, 19, your hormone levels are high. You're at the rebellious stage of finding yourself as an adult, claiming your space in the outside world. So we were really pushing boundaries. And I went to the art school because I had this creative side. But it was frowned upon because the good kids would go and study maths and science and literature, and the bad kids would do art, because art is, you don't become a doctor, you don't become a lawyer, you don't become a chartered accountant. And if you're not those, if you're an artist or a musician, you have a very low space in society. Unfortunately, that's how they see it. And I'm thinking, even if I wasn't growing up there, would I still study commercial art and advertising or graphic design? Probably not. I probably would be a dancer or a um, actress or a script writer, something that would be with performing art. But because the girls were so restricted, the only avenue of expression was through art, and that's why I went to do art, to art school.
So you stayed until you were
Yeah.
21 and you moved to London.
Yes.
Talk about that transition, because obviously you've been dreaming about this Western culture. You've been, you took the route of studying art, and then you came here. And from what I understand, your first position here was actually in retail,
Yes.
wasn't it? So talk to me about that, how that happened.
So when I got here, I attended American University. It no longer exists in UK. It was in Marylebone. So I remember sitting in this common room for the students. We never had common rooms. We never seen boys. In university back home, the boys will sit one side and the girls on the other side. You're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to exchange glances. And here we are sitting there playing pool. At the time you could smoke, so people are smoking. You can go and get a can of Coke. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? I mean, what am I doing here? This is amazing. And that's why I wrote that I was given the wings, but I didn't know how to fly, because I was having all these freedoms, and I didn't know how to use it, how to apply it. So I remember I used to go to club like 5 times a week, just for the sake of going to clubs. I started smoking. I wanted to experiment with the drink. I was never hooked on anything. It was just experimental. I'm allowed to do this and nobody is going to question me. And I was living with other girls, which was never heard of. You always live with your parents until the day you get married. So it was very liberating to be able to have all of this. And then, of course, I wanted to earn my own money. So I started working part-time in Wigmore Street. It was a little handcrafted shop from Egypt, that it was one of the charities that Lady Diana was supporting. I happened to walk in, give my CV, roll my eyes a little bit, and they said, okay. And I used to live like 2 blocks up the road. So I started working in the shop, not knowing anything, just talking to people, and I wanted to improve my English. So it helped me in every other way. It gave me the pocket money. It gave me a new skill. I learned English, and also I learned about the culture of, how the Brits work here, who are the tourists, who are the locals. Learned a lot with this little weekend job. So that's it whole started for me.
I think you mentioned so many brilliant things there, and one thing that I really picked up on is that you learned so much in the little job, as you put it. For me, that's something that I talk about so often, because retail has so many different, I guess, strings added to it, yes, that we don't look at every single day, and we don't talk about often enough. And it's not just about having a product and knowing how to sell it to the client. It's understanding the different types of client, who comes when, the peaks and troughs, the different cultures that shop here. There's so many different ways of working that we learn from working in retail that you can then apply to so many different industries. And we don't talk about that enough. And I suppose as a recruiter in this industry, it's really good, I guess, to highlight that for anybody that's coming into the industry now, that there are so many things that you learn from being on the shop floor that can give you so many other opportunities. But you decided to continue a career in this industry. So from there, what sparked the passion to stay?
I was very curious, but I think because of my limited background where I grew up, I was so curious. It was like a goldfish in a sea. So everything was fresh, everything was new. So I was like a sponge, learning. And one of the ways that energizes me is to be with people and connecting with people. And retail, all you have to do is to chat.
Yeah.
And I always say, even to this day, the sales and the targets and the KPIs is the consequence of that relationship or that chat or that experience you give or you have with someone. So for me, it was super fun. I remember at one point I was the GM for Fendi in Harrow. So I had multi-sited stores. And I would make sure that everything is done in the morning when it's quiet. And I would take a 12 o'clock lunch. And by 2 o'clock, I remember coming up the stairs from my office saying, okay, happy hour, happy hour, happy hour. Why happy hour? Because it's time to chat. It's time to find about somebody else. It's time to understand who's in the store, what is the dynamic, who's doing what. So the curiosity of this job will teach you a lot. A lot. Everything else, whether it's system, you can read a manual. Anything with regards to the mathematical and the commercial aspect of it is a skill you can learn and people can teach you. But this essence of attitude, behavior, mindset, and curiosity, if somebody has it, the rest, you can get them to do it.
I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you, and it's like my whole body's just like tingling because I'm so passionate about that whole aspect. Everything technical, hard skill, if you like, my favorite thing to talk about, soft skills, hard skills, can be taught. But that attitude and curiosity, as you put it again there, if you've got that, everything else just comes with it. It's the passion that you have, I guess, that it's natural within you, that makes you successful in resale. And I think if you've got the right attitude and you're willing to learn and you are curious, then, you know, you really can go, you know, full steam ahead, really. What's so nice is that, I guess, having that you did, you must have been a very, very inspiring manager. I mean, you are very inspiring now in what you do, and you're in the perfect role for it, to be honest with you, now at Celine. But we talk about, I do digress slightly, but we talk about in retail recruitment and the structure and people coming in and out of managerial positions and people leaving jobs because of the people they work for.
More so than money.
Absolutely. And it is such a common thing that we talk about. And we're interviewing people all day long, right? And the majority of the time people say to me, when I'm asking them the reason why they're looking to move, and we analyse lots of different aspects, because obviously as a recruiter you need to think, okay, is this person going to then take a counter offer if they're offered something else? Is there anything that's going to keep them where they are? And I would say 80 to 90% of the day I'm hearing that they're uncomfortable in the situation with their manager, or they're unhappy with the leadership style or something like that. People don't leave their jobs, they leave their bosses. And when you have somebody in your business that is a really inspiring manager or leader, you need to keep hold of them.
Yeah.
So that was clearly you, because I can see it in you now, and you know what you just mentioned and how you would motivate your staff or your team at the time to go out and do that happy hour must have been something really incredible. How then did you sort of move on? You know, when did you realize that you needed more from your career, from being a manager? Because obviously looking at your CV, you went into management quite quickly and then, you know, evolved into this role that you're in now. So how did that happen? How did you realize, actually, okay, I want to stay in this industry and I want to bring more to the table?
I always wanted to be working with people, and with the retail aspect of, like, when I was with in department stores or managing a standalone store, I never necessarily led by example. I think, sorry for my language, I think it's total bullshit. I don't lead by example. If I'm as a good salesperson as the salesperson that I hire to do an amazing job, then when do I have time to do my amazing leadership job? So I hire people to be able to do their job better than how I do it. So I don't want to lead by example. So this was my motto all the time. And I would pick talents that I knew they will bring something that they can do better than me. And then as a result, within a year or two, my department, my project would run by itself. It didn't need me.
That's amazing. I read one of your posts actually, which I guess spoke about that. Playing people to their strengths. And I think you wrote something about, asking your audience, I guess, to pick what they are particularly good at. And you were encouraging them to talk about that to whoever they work for, so their managers, etc., and ask them, if they're not already, why aren't they using them to their biggest advantage? For example, if I'm a great seller and I'm not really having the opportunity to sell, why not? And to have those conversations. And again, I'm thinking that's so obvious, but so many people don't actually do it. And they then come and speak to people like me and they're like, I'm not being played to my strengths in my job. So that's really amazing. And I think that that's also really incredible to think about the fact that a lot of managers do hire people to tell them what to do. Yeah. But actually, why would you bother to do that? You might as well do it yourself. You hire people that are actually better than you at certain things so that then everybody's got something to do.
This is the ace card if you're a good leader, in my opinion. And whoever who I have seen that run their businesses in any sector like this, they hire people who are better at certain skills than them, and they oversee the whole thing. They succeed.
Because ultimately, you're good at one thing.
I cannot be good at everything and be everywhere.
Absolutely. No, you can't. But if you've got somebody that's particularly good at something and you're giving them the tools to be able to really succeed in that area of their job, they're going to then enjoy their job more. Exactly. Because you're also giving them autonomy.
Autonomy, sense of belonging. They're major contributor to the aspect that they enjoy the most. If they're good at it, they enjoy it. So why would they want to leave?
You also mentioned something as well that I read in one of your posts about that. And I found it really inspiring and amazing, actually. It was something like you train people, so if they want to leave, they can, but they choose not to.
Exactly. And I always argue about this because people get a little bit scared when they have key assets to their businesses as employees. And I always say, no, we invest in them, train them. Let's invest in them. Let's grow them. And they say, but if we grow them so fast, what are we going to do in 2 years' time with them? I mean, there are, as you go higher, the positions don't open as fast. I said, because if they are to go, and they will decide not to go. So they have to have everything. And eventually, if they have to go, they have to go, because they have to go and spread this somewhere else.
So a question I'm going to ask just lastly, I guess, in this topic is, and just because I'm nosy.
No, please do.
You've worked for some fantastic companies and you work for an amazing company now. And you have very strong views on how things work and how things run in terms of your own personal beliefs. But how did you, I guess...
Get away?
No. I guess the question I'm asking is, how did you know that these companies were right for you? Because when you interview, I say this to all my candidates when they're going out for interview, the interview is not just for the client or the brand, essentially, to analyze you as the candidate and to decide if you're right for them. Of course they are, because they're the ones with the position to offer. But equally, as a candidate applying for a company, it's also an opportunity for you to see if that business is right for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you need to spend the majority of your life there.
Yeah.
We spend so much more time at work than we do at home with our families, with our loved ones. So for you, with the way you work and how different you are to the majority of this industry, which is the truth, and I think what makes you so special, how did you decide that these companies that you work for were the right ones throughout that interview recruitment process?
Like you said, first of all, I never looked for a job. And this is not boasting, this is honest truth. I always found a job because somebody contacted me, or we knew a friend in common, or I worked with the brand before and they moved to another brand. It's always with word of mouth and within the retail community. Like you said, when I'm interviewed, I'm also interviewing. I will ask questions that it's important to me. I also have to like the value of the brand. I also have to like the product they are offering. I remember when I wanted to work for Chloe, I was interviewing, funnily enough, with Celine, with Bali, and Chloe. So Celine at the time, they were changing top management, so it went a little bit pear-shaped, so I wouldn't get answers as quickly. And Bali offered me a job, and Chloe offered me a job, and then Berluti also came at the same time and offered me a job. All amazing.
Yeah. How did you choose?
Which one I like their product better, and which one resonates with my values. Chloe girl, Chloe female aspirations. It's run by women. The main designer was a woman, so I went for something that was feminine, but also I love the product. Bali, I have high respect for the quality. So is Berluti, but I said I don't see myself selling men's shoes. I need to like it.
I always say that. I remember when I've got my job at Chanel, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare because I'm going to want them to pay me in bags. When I was really passionate about a product, I could always sell it so much better.
Absolutely, because you connect emotionally.
Natural, yeah.
But also the value of the brands. And when I joined my current role, I was between jobs, so I bumped into my GM from my previous job at Fendi and Tod's. And she was at Celine, and she said, let's have lunch. And I honestly thought she would just want to catch up. And this role came. I said, but I was never a trainer. She said, but you were on the shop floor, you did operation, and you did develop people. Take it. Okay, I take it.
Because you're so passionate and you're very excitable, I guess, when you're talking about, anything. You've just got this infectious personality. There's nothing better than to train people because you're very engaging and people can resonate with you. And that's why I want to move on to the book now, because I'm lucky because I've read it.
You're very sweet.
And I read your chapter, and I've read it twice, actually. I went over it. And I had a mix of emotions. There was times where, it was quite gut-wrenching. I felt sorry for you. There were times where I felt so inspired, and your strength as a woman was just incredibly inspiring. And for you to have gone through what you've gone through, and I'll allow you to talk through that, and still manage to really shine and be top of your game consistently is something that's super commendable and something that I really admire. And one of the reasons, I guess, why I wanted to meet you and have this conversation with you. So your chapter, I want to ask you about the title, The Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Why did you title it that?
I looked at it, since you read the chapter, if you look at the chapter is into two sub-chapters. So it gets into 4 stories within that chapter. And this 4 story, the first chapter is about a child who is growing up in war and revolution, and eventually as a teenager comes out of the country into a new world. So this is the first season. The second season is adolescent, finding a job and, developing yourself as a person. Then the third part is the divorce, the children, the trauma of being a single mother, but at the same time you have ambition. You also think, I'm a human, I also want to shine. So that was the third one. And the fourth one is the maturity and getting older and entering this aspect of life that you have to accept that some aspect of you is slowing down, some aspect of you are more maturing, and some aspect of you is still very giving. So the older age. So that's why I called it the fourth season, because it's the four aspect of the life, the fourth season of the life.
What I really liked as well is how you explain things so well that, I felt like I was living it with you when I was reading it.
Oh, that's
to be honest.
good to know.
Really, really amazing. And then at the end, I felt like I was breathing out. It was almost like you came to terms with things, and you were just talking about how well you're able to now heal yourself, but still be very human at the same time. There's a lot of people that talk about well-being and how they've, done a full circle from burnout, and how they are now absolutely able to just deal with things amazingly well. But you still talk about how, there are times where all of us will struggle, but you can then identify the reasons why and come to terms with it. And you talk about that a lot in LinkedIn and all of these things. You mention in the book a time that you were going through your divorce and how things were quite difficult at work, and that you weren't able to, have the flexibility or really, I guess, deal with the situation that you were going through. And it wasn't, perhaps, I don't know, you can elaborate, but it wasn't really evident that your management at the time were supportive. And in fact, you mentioned in the book that you felt quite betrayed.
Yes.
How did you get through that? That's really, really difficult. When you're dealing with issues at home, you're at work, you're trying to be the best version of yourself, and then on top of it, you feel quite betrayed by the person who you felt that you trusted at work.
And especially with the job that I was into it like 3.5 years, and quite successful. I used to get clap all the time. And suddenly, after the divorce, I was left with two teenage children, that one is totally angry and rebellious and pushing boundaries. And my job, I was doing the North Europe operation and training. So I was constantly on a plane, in and out. And I felt that my presence at home is needed to be able to be with my son. He needed me. And part of me wanted to be a mom to him. And part of me felt guilty. But at the same time, I didn't have a support of a partner who can say, okay, work part-time now. So I needed the job. So I needed both. Well, I needed the job to be able to be present with my son, who is desperately, in a negative way, wants me. And I explained this, and I asked for help. And I think I still to this day tell people, if you need help, ask for it. And I asked because I had a track record that I'm committed. It was just understand me, see me. But I forgave her because I think she didn't have children and her job was the only thing. And she couldn't see it. It was not her problem. And she was right. It was not her problem.
It is really difficult when you're in that situation.
Yeah.
And you're trying to explain to somebody who really doesn't understand you. And it's not their fault that they don't understand you. It's not their reality.
But the betrayal came. If she would say, I don't understand you, I don't have children, I cannot connect with this problem, get a grip. Okay, don't like it, but I respect you. The fact that she empathized with me and said, I will do my best. And she didn't.
But didn't even
try. Because I realized later on that she didn't even try. But I was lucky because the HR department, the HR that was behind it, I'm still very much in contact with all of the girls. They were very supportive. They were very supportive and they tried to protect me. And I got ill. I mentally got exhausted. But they were able to let me go and get well and heal myself. And I'm not ashamed of saying it. People get really upset to talk about their mental health or mental collapse because it's a sign of a weakness, or I'm cuckoo, or you're woo-woo, or you're crazy, or you're weak. But if you, God forbid, if you have a liver issue, or if you have, God forbid, a tumor on your head, okay, you're not happy about it, but you openly talk about it and ask your employer for help. Why not when your heart is broken? Why not when your life circumstances is in a dent? Why not when your children need you? We can't ask for help. We are spending a lot of our time investing ourselves, our talents, our youth in these companies to grow because we're growing with it. I'm not saying it's a favor to them. You get paid, but you create a community that we are responsible for each other. If I feel responsible towards your task and what you ask me to do as your project, and I want to deliver for you, have a little bit of flexibility and compassion. At least don't lie. And that killed me. That killed me. And I hope she learned this lesson, because with the COVID, because she said, no, in your role, we cannot have you one day less in the business. It won't be productive.
I think in retail, this is something that's a massive challenge across the board, because I'm talking about the people that are on the shop floor. We don't have the flexibility of hybrid working, working from home. You can't work from home. If you need to be present in the shop, there's no working from home hybrid. And we speak to people all the time that are, I really need the flexibility of hybrid working because of, family commitments or children, etc. And I think we're losing a lot, especially women, amazing, talented women from the industry because of this, because of these issues. I think, from conversations I'm having regularly with HR departments, that they are putting things in place to
We're
allow,
trying to put things,
more flexibility and support there. But I think a key issue is being able to, not necessarily always in HR because they're not there physically all the time on the shop floor, but for leaders and management to be able to identify certain things in their team where perhaps people are afraid to ask for help or to explain how they're really feeling, to try and identify these things in their team to allow themselves to be more approachable for the team or the people that are working for them, to be able to tell them how they're really feeling and if they do need help.
How we try, we tested this. In some places worked like a magic, in some places didn't. But we try to give this opportunity to people who want to work 4 longer days, like one shift, and have an extra day so they can be with their families, or pay less childcare, less transport expense, or work normal shift of 7.5, 8 hours a day, but work 5 days a week. Also, certain caliber of the salespeople who have built a clientele, we do allow them to work from home. Not 5 days a week. Even us, we are in the office. I can work 5 days a week from home, but I don't, because my job is to connect with people, and that's the retail. So even us who have this flexibility, maximum, we work once a week from home, if that's so now. But we do give this caliber of people the opportunity to work from home, where it's quiet, when they can really work for their clients, create their wish list, create their content, what they want to say, make plans for the next 3 to 6 months, what they want to do with their top 10 customers, what are the action plans, how much budget is needed. So it's a very entrepreneurial approach to the senior sales, and give them flexibility to work from home. You cannot be in the shop floor creating a retro planning for 5 clients and be asked to go and show a handbag because there's nobody to cover the shop floor. They need to be away.
Absolutely. And I do think that that's a really key point. People that are working in that sort of senior sale or VIP client sort of position, it is very entrepreneurial. They do have to run a business essentially within someone else. It's within the bigger business. So of course that makes complete sense. So I guess that's something that is good for the listeners, especially at more junior level, to know that once you get to that level, that's an opportunity to do. And that's what, I guess, if that flexibility is something that they're aiming for, getting to that level is going to allow that. And that comes with passion and drive and putting in the hard work, I guess. I want to talk about you now, because obviously you're in this amazing role, training people, and I'm sure inspiring people every single day. And I'm assuming you, as Celine, you're going to have the best staff retention if they're all looking at you. But you talk about, the wellness, and you found yoga to be really helpful to you. And you also run a yoga platform as well. How do you find the time to do both?
The yoga aspect has become now a lifestyle. I don't get on the mat once or twice or 5 times a week and do, 1 hour or 90 minutes of asana and say, I've done my yoga. Yoga that I do is to do with breath work, to do with mantra and chanting, to do with energy healing, to do with meditation techniques, different schools. And I studied these because I was interested in. And I became a yoga teacher, a yoga therapist. I did a 500-hour with a school that was super good school, American, but they teach Hatha yoga, which is the core of the yoga. Ayurveda, which is prevention of disease in a Eastern way. So in the Western, we pop pills and when we get sick. Eastern way, they prevent it so you don't get sick. So Ayurveda is how to have a clear gut, what's your constitution with regards to your atmosphere or environment, and how to balance yourself. You'll be bringing yourself, mind, body, and soul into equilibrium. So that's another aspect. And Tantra, which is the light and the darkness that I talk about in the book, that we always say, I'm seeking happiness. Without sadness, how do you know what happiness is? Tell me one person who lived into an adulthood life who hasn't experienced grief, pain, sadness, loss, failure. Name me one person, and we all strive for happiness. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. If you're waiting for that, let me burst your bubble. It's not going to come. It will come if you know that I will feel the grief, I will feel the sadness, I will feel the sorrow, I will see the darkness. And this darkness is my path to the light, because how you deal with this darkness, when you feel the grief or the pain or the sadness, it's your platform to build resilience. And when you have resilience, that's when the light starts to come in.
Because you know what's coming, and you know how to, I guess, prevent the feeling.
Yes, it's not numbing it at all. I'm not saying numbing it. I'm saying go and truly face the sensation. Your feelings are always valid, but what your mind is telling you is sometimes rubbish. But what you feel is a sensation that is valid because you're feeling it inside your body and inside your heart. So if you know how to manage it and understand what is the lesson behind this and where this can take me, you will see that your darkness is the path to your light. For example, my job when I was burnt out was the worst time in my life, but it became the best path to where I am today. Without that, I wouldn't have the light and the happiness and contentment and fulfillment that I am feeling right now in my job.
What's so nice about that as well is that I read when I was reading about your yoga is that you've specified that you want to be able to encourage people in the retail industry to explore
Mm-hmm.
this to help them. Do you talk about it in your current role,
Yeah.
in your training?
During the COVID, I collaborated with the HR for Europe, and we wrote a program that we first run only for the top management and directors. That was a little bit of coaching and self-awareness and a little bit of yoga and meditation. So it was quite a well-rounded. And then we rolled it out throughout our teams. And then we also did small sessions of, we used to call it Energizing Mondays and Restorative Fridays. So Energizing Mondays, so we would do affirmation that is positive. We would do some breathing exercises. And it was open. The link would be sent to everyone on a newsletter. And whoever who felt want to do it would come along. And I was committed to be there. Whether it was one person or 200 people, I would still run it. I would show up. So this was going on, and now we're launching another project. It's called just for my region at the moment. We call it Wellbeing at Work, and the Wellbeing at Work is a project that it's a 1.5 hour workshop on Zoom, and anybody can come, and it's taking you through the wheel of wellness. The wellness is not just doing a little bit of exercise, eating well, and cycling to work. Your wellness depends on 8 aspects of your being, and where are you with that? And if your career is blossoming, which part of your life is compromising for your career to blossom? Because it's impossible that everything is like that. So where can you give for the rest of the suffering areas of your life to come to balance? So this is, like, again, self-awareness of your life wheel. And then kindness. Why kindness at work is going to be helpful in productivity.
I've recently started working with a client, and I never felt more refreshed, I guess, when I was talking to this particular client when we initially started working together. And I asked a question, obviously, as a recruiter, what is it that you're really looking for? Because obviously we have to tick a lot of boxes when we're finding candidates to fit with brands and whatever it is, whether that's skill set, previous experience, whatever. And what was so amazing was that this client said to me, Stephanie, I want kind people. I want people that just genuinely understand the meaning of kindness. They don't have to be nice all the time, but they have to be kind. And I've never heard that before in this industry. And I know that we've been speaking about it a lot since COVID, and mental health is being, made aware of in every industry. But that was something that really hit home. And I thought, wow, never ever been asked of that before.
Yeah.
It's never been a key point. It's never been important. And it's made me want to deliver so much more for that client, because that is what their requirement was and their values. And when I talk to candidates about that I'm approaching for that brand, because of that reason, they want to work for them more.
Somebody's going to be kind to me.
Yeah.
I'm safe.
Safety, that's it.
I'm emotionally safe.
Yeah.
Nobody is safe in any job,
of course not.
But I'm emotionally safe.
Yeah.
I will be heard. I will be seen. And the poverty in the East is food, it's clothing, it's clean water, it's condition of living, right? Which, if you fed the child or fed the hungry person, it's fine. If you clothe the body's clothed. If you house the homeless is the problem is solved, right? It's very easy. Simple, not easy. It's very simple. But the poverty that we're suffering is, I am not seen, I am not heard, I do not exist, I am not good enough, I am not a contributor.
It takes me back to the first line in your book where it says, your duty is not to is to be, and not to be
This or that.
this or that, yeah. And you can be confident in just being who you are, you know, and being comfortable and confident to be able to understand, yes, I am going to be heard, I'm going to be understood, which I think in our industry is something that, like you mentioned, isn't, you know, people are not so open about it, and I think that it's something that is coming forward now
More and more, yeah.
which is refreshing, and I guess hopefully going to entice more and more people to stay within our industry, and feel safe.
And I think the new generation, they're not like how I was. I would swallow and take the hard work and take the kick on the chin and just create a thicker skin and move on. This generation really values their quality of life. They really understand their rights. Okay, sometimes too much. But they know what is the balance of a good life and where they have to draw the line. So I think that this two generations meeting right now is going to be eventually a good move. We can teach them a little bit of discipline. They can teach us a little bit of valuing ourselves within our jobs or within our industry or within our environment.
I want to ask you now a bit more about your overall journey. And you've come to a point, as you mentioned just now, that you're really content. You mentioned within your job and in your life, I hope.
Yes.
Can you tell our listeners more about your book, and where they can find it and when they can read it, and even more about, you know, your social media, if this is something that you're putting out there, or your yoga, how they can engage more with you going forward?
Well, I have a personal Instagram that it's a mishmash of my life. So sometimes you see lots of stories about my dog that I adore, and sometimes you see more deeper things. So if that tickles your fancy, you can follow. I'm not hidden. I also have a LinkedIn, this is how we connected. I try to put more valuable content on there, and people can connect with me there. And I have Facebook, but Facebook is so in the past. I have a TikTok account, but this is where I check where my kids are based on what they upload. So I'm not really active. I just haunt and follow my kids to see where they are. And the book is going to be available digitally on Amazon for the first 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Wow.
So on the 9th of August is available to purchase. And we, all of us, we wanted this book to be accessible. And when we wrote it, we asked ourselves why anybody would want to read my story. And I questioned this. And then I answered myself. I said, my life was so ordinary that it can be so relatable. I don't have an extraordinary. I didn't live a life that was wow or overcome something that was, you know, so sad. It was a normal life that a lot of women like me, you said to me, I felt that I'm reading my own story. And I thought, okay, that's because it's relatable. So there's a lot of relatable stories in the book. And we wrote it. And it's we want to reach it to as many people as possible. Not because it makes money, because to be honest with you, this book is not going to make money. It's just something that we did a project as a self-discovery, self-healing project for ourselves and bring lots of women together as a community. And if it reaches to people, it's great. So we're putting it at a very crazy price digitally. So it's accessible to anyone. And then in 2 weeks' time, we will anyone can order the hard copy directly from Amazon.
Amazing. Well, we'll put the link as well, with
Sure.
this podcast so that people can access that link as well. And obviously to your LinkedIn and to your Instagram so people can engage with you. So the book is called Activating
the Divine Human.
And there's 9 of you, I believe.
11.
11, okay. I got that wrong. So 11 of you. And your chapter is called The 4 Season.
Exactly.
I am so grateful to have had this opportunity to speak with you and hear your story today. And, for the majority of the time, I'm sitting here with goosebumps because everything you're saying is things that I've felt and been passionate about for so many years. Thank you. I'm really excited for everybody else to read your chapter. So
thank you so much. Thank you for having me, really.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.